In order to conduct the rating and to provide feedback on current employee goals, I will click on Current Employee Goals in order for me to begin this process. Several people have asked, what exactly is this process evaluating? First, you will give feedback on any of the goals that were issued at the time of the initial meeting or the interim meeting. You will then conduct a rating on both the classification-specific competencies that were agreed upon during the initial meeting or the interim, and you will also rate agency-wide competencies. You will also have an opportunity to develop and create future goals, which will be carried over into the next evaluative cycle and will automatically populate once the new evaluation is generated. Let's begin with current employee goals. In this particular sample, we created a goal called Development of HRS Online Forms Web Application. Once I click on the goal, I will be prompted to provide comments. If you will recall in your in-person training, for those of you that attended, there are several ways in which you can provide feedback. If you look at this top corner on the right-hand side, you will see job description. This employee's job description is already pre-populated, and I can subsequently scroll down, find any information that I believe is necessary, to which I can then copy and paste over and be able to utilize it in order to draft a response. I'm going to go on ahead and copy the second essential function, which acts as the technical liaison between the HRS division personnel, administrators, technology services staff, and vendors. I'm going to indicate that this particular employee was able to accomplish her goals by being able to work with technology staff services, staff in order to work on a web application. Once I've written my goal and have provided my feedback, I will then hit Next. I think I'm going to give some more feedback. So I'm going to go back to the previous goal and click on it again. If you will note, there are these journal entries. We will be creating a separate video on the journal entries. However, for purposes of this particular example, you will note that anything that was created as part of a journal entry within the fiscal year can be utilized. You can add to the comment box, and you can continue to utilize this particular piece of information as part of the evaluation process. I'm going to now move forward. In this particular goal that was written, the competencies to be rated on, you will recall that the only way really to document whether or not the employees would have certain competencies that would be rated on were to actually list them. So in this particular goal, I will merely indicate, because a red comment box requires me to provide some type of comment, otherwise I cannot continue, I will merely write, will be rated. I will click on Done. If you will note, I now have a green check mark on current employee goals. Next, I'm going to go to classification-specific competencies. If you will note on the classification-specific competencies, we will click on all of them and provide some type of comment utilizing the rating scale, with the exception of those that were not evaluated on. Let's start with critical thinking. Once you click on the appropriate competency, you will then be prompted once again to access to the job description, access to journal entries, and if we had a check-in form, that would be located on the very bottom down here. For all intents and purposes of this particular segment, I'm going to focus on the rating scale and the comments. If you'll note, the competencies contain information very similar to what you will find through the Personnel Commission's competency cards at the time a classification is being assessed. You have both effective and ineffective language. You may copy and paste any of this information over in order to help you guide your comments. If you go to the rating scale for classification-specific competencies are met, and not applicable by mutual agreement. This particular section also has show descriptions. If you click on show descriptions, you will get a flyout that will give you detailed information as to what met, and not applicable by mutual agreement mean. I'm going to close this. I also have a comment box. If I click not applicable by mutual agreement, I will not be required to give a comment. If I click on met or not met, you will note that I am required to provide comments. Given that this was not one that was discussed and agreed upon, I will click on not applicable and move on. Legal and regulatory navigation was one of the competencies that was agreed upon for the rating. Therefore, I will either utilize the information at this particular time from effective language, the job description, the journal entries, or the check-in form in order to guide my responses. This particular employee did meet legal and regulatory navigation requirements, and I'm required to now give a comment. Here I wrote, employee used their subject matter knowledge in human resource services in order to stay abreast of all legal requirements impacting the office. In doing so, new employee orientation was updated in order to allow the 3 unions to have an opportunity to meet potential unit members. This was required due to changes in the law, which took effect on January 1st, 2017. I'm going to move on and hit next. Innovation was one of the competencies that was not mutually agreed upon, therefore I will click not applicable by mutual agreement and hit next. The same for oral communication. I will do the same for writing. Managing performance was one of the competencies agreed upon. I'm going to click met.